the potential to go into a new direction or deepen into a current one. How do you want to express yourself uniquely? Not wanting to be interfered with, being yourself without caring what anyone else thinks. These are all pressures, qualities, and questions that this cycle of the Human Design Weather for May 3rd to 9th, 2026 bring. Hello, and welcome to the Human Design Whether or Not podcast with me, Margo Fraser. And welcome to quarter two of the Human Design year with the start of this cycle. Quarter two is the quarter of civilization. And for those who were and are born in this quarter, purpose is fulfilled through form. So if you're working on creating something and materializing it, these next 3 months are particularly supportive for that. This is another very busy cycle with a number of channels, so let's just get right into it here. This cycle begins on May 3rd at 10:29 a.m., going until the 9th at 5:54 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, Universal Time Coordinates. It's coming in May 3rd at 4:29 p.m., going until the 9th at 11:54 p.m. So remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun-Earth activations as that 70% of the conditioning field. We have two individual traits being activated this cycle, which have the potential to bring a pulse of knowing that could be mutative and empowering. Both traits are in the G center, the diamond shape in the center of the chart that's about love, identity, and direction in life. Because we have a channel that is activating the G center for everyone that doesn't already have it defined in their charts until May 6th. At the start of this cycle, everyone in the world will have access to the Sun-Earth traits coming through the transit field directly. We have the Sun moving into gate 2, the gate of higher knowing, also called the receptive. Its keynote says receptivity as the primal base through which any response is determined, the root of action. So responding inherently and fundamentally means that you're taking action out of some kind of information that you've received. So gate 2 is the root of action. It's the receptive, it's receiving, but not the action itself. Here, it's the receiving and setting of the direction as an individual for your response, for your potential action. There is the potential with this of knowing your direction, getting that pulse of knowing. It's the most yin, the most receptive of all gates. The yin is also associated with the form principle, so that aligns us to this quarter. It's the trait that transforms mutation from a pulse of knowing into a direction. In human design, this is the seat of what we refer to as the driver of yourself. I don't mean driver in terms of what's your mental motivation here. I mean the driver, like the driver of a car, the built-in mechanism that moves you along your fractal, your trajectory, your path in life. Gate 2, the receptive, is the direction, but there are other directional gates in the G center that provide the perspective. So gate 7 is looking into the future as part of the logic circuitry. What's ahead on the road? Gate 13 is looking into the past, into the rearview mirror. Where have we been? And gate 1 stays in the present. What's here now? It's kind of looking at its hands on the steering wheel. Our direction as a totality is rooted in this trait. It's the root of our evolutionary action. At its core, our direction is towards harmony and beauty, whatever that is for each of us. And so there's an opportunity in this cycle that you may receive a pulse of knowing about your unique direction. It could happen that you thought you were going in one direction, but a pulse comes through and now you're going in another. Just a reminder that you need to move anything that comes in for you through your own strategy and authority to make sure that it's correct for you. Also, just because you may know your direction, it can take time to take action on it. The fuel for your direction, the fuel for gate 2 comes from gate 14 in the sacral center. So if you don't have that in your design, It's going to take some time. You're going to need some patience there. The 14 is going to come in through the transit field or through another person eventually. The caution here is being impatient. The direction comes from a pulse of knowing in the now, and you have no control over when or if that pulse will come through. If the ego gets involved, it can have you trying to will yourself to go in a direction, that not self mind saying that, oh yeah, this will be a good direction for whatever its own motivations are. And if your ego and the not self mind are in charge of your direction, it's not likely to go well. Your direction arises out of the present moment knowings that you move through your strategy and authority. Now, gate 2 is being grounded in the Earth's position, which is in gate 1, also in the G center. This is the gate of self expression and the creative. Its keynote says creation as a primal force, the energy potential to manifest inspiration without limitation. Individual traits operate in the now and bring through something unique. So there's no limitations, there's no boundaries to the potential that's here. At the same time, it's only potential here. To actually manifest that potential will require many things to come together. This is the individual perspective, the individual unique and creative action that comes out of the direction of that gate 2, the receptive. While gate 2 is the most receptive of all gates, the most yin, gate 1 is the most yang or yang, the most active. The opportunity it brings is to express yourself uniquely. That's creativity. And it's an expression of your direction. There's nothing competitive in this trait. It's not about being the best. There can be no best, no comparison when it's unique. Sometimes we lose sight of that. The foundation of this trait is that creation is independent of will. True creativity comes through in a pulse. When it comes, again, you have no control over when or if the pulse will come through. True creativity isn't something that you can will to happen on demand. It doesn't work that way. But often the ego tries to force creativity. This whole industry is built on that, which tends to result in a lot of frustration, anger, bitterness, and disappointment. So, once again, patience is needed here. When we look at these two traits together, they can help you to express yourself and your direction in life in your own unique way. You may find you want to express your individuality in a greater way through, could be how you dress or what you do or what you create this cycle. These traits will bring a pressure to be present. However, without patience, there can also be taking action too quickly out of what your not self mind thinks your direction should be, without waiting for either the higher knowing of gate 2 or the pulse of unique creativity of gate 1. All individual traits carry the potential to drop into melancholy. Gate 2, the receptive, could drop into melancholy that you'll never find your direction, or that things aren't moving fast enough. Gate 1, the creative, could drop into melancholy that you don't have any creative inspiration or that people don't see your uniqueness. If that happens, do your best to channel that melancholy into creative endeavors. And sometimes listening to music that you're in the mood for can also be helpful. It is just the natural biochemistry of the individual traits and channels, nothing to make yourself wrong about. All right, let's look at our channels now. We've got a lot of them. So, a reminder that when the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in their chart is receiving activation of the related traits and qualities. So, it has a big impact worldwide through that. We have our long-term channel that's been with us since December 22nd. It's going to go out on May 13th. So, this is the last time we're going to have it through the full cycle. This is being created by the nodes of the moon, and they're creating the channel of community, a design of a part seeking a whole. The nodes represent our direction, our environment, and what we see in the world, our perspective. The North Node's been sitting in that gate 37, the trait of friendship and family. in the emotional center, while the south node is in gate 40, the trait of deliverance and aloneness in the ego center. So we've had this long period of time with a lot of emotionality, a lot of willfulness. It's tribal. So it always has that underlying theme of mutual support. So we may feel the need to be supported and to support. We could really see who's being supported and who's not being supported. It's also the channel of the marriage contract and bargains and agreements generally. So it does bring this pressure and emphasis on fairness in relationships. If someone's feeling taken advantage of, though, they seem to be giving more than the other, it's not fair, that could create a lot of agitation, irritation, frustration, anger, and so on. All the emotionality could come out around that. Expect to experience the themes of loyalty and betrayal, jealousy and friendship, possessiveness and generosity. It could be a really good time to negotiate contracts while this frequency is here. You just have to be clear on what you see as really being fair for you. As the channel of a part seeking a whole, this sense of belonging, and whether you feel that you belong in your family, your community, in the totality, whether you do or don't, can be really heightened within this frequency. And sometimes you may notice people joining communities out of wanting to belong to something. And even if the community is not aligned for them, the pressure to belong is stronger than making sure that it's aligned. It also could support us and really feeling within ourselves and knowing that inherently that you are part of the totality, a unique part of the totality. The channel of community in the greater whole in the world is about how nations relate to each other. It has a lot to do with resources and how we manage resources. So trade agreements and collective agreements, that type of thing, are going to be heightened within these frequencies as well. Okay, we have a carryover of a short-term channel from last cycle that'll be here until May 6th at 11:27 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, it'll be here until May 6th at 5:27 p.m. That has Mars in gate 51, the trait of shock in the ego center, that heart center that generates willpower. It's connecting with its electromagnetic Neptune's position, gate 25, the trait of the spirit of the self, of innocence, and universal love in the G center. Again, that's the center that's associated with love, identity, and direction in life. You can think of gate 25 as the spirit of the warrior connecting with the heart of the warrior in gate 51. Together, they create the individual channel of initiation, a design of needing to be first. You could receive a pulse of knowing of what leap into the unknown to take to stretch yourself, to adapt and land on your feet. This can initiate you into a new sense of self. Through that, coming more deeply into yourself. It's part of the centering circuit, so it can bring this sense of being more centered in yourself as you stretch yourself and find these new capabilities within yourself. The pressure of this channel then could have you testing your limits, and that could be very empowering. It's a trait that, when challenged with who wants to go first, is going to step up. What we most often see, though, playing out in the not self world is being competitive out of the ego, competitive with others, this win at all costs mentality, and throwing caution to the wind in a foolish way. Now, Mars could amplify that heart of the warrior. A mature Mars is going to be very supportive in this trait. That quality of being courageous and in taking those leaps into oneself. However, Neptune could veil the way and make it a little bit more tricky. We just have to, when we have that sense of knowing, we put it through our strategy and authority. And yes, this is the correct leap to take to really trust it. But what we're more likely to see play out in the world is the immature aspects of Mars, amplifying that competitive, win at all cost quality, and taking foolish actions to prove oneself. Just a quick mention too here that we have a carryover from last cycle in a moon transit channel that will go out at 12:07 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time or 6:07 p.m. UTC on the 3rd. So just a couple of hours after this cycle starts. This is the channel of charisma, a design where thoughts must become deeds. That's being created by the moon in gate 34, the trait of power in the sacral center, connecting with Uranus position, gate 20 in the throat center. So we'll have a few hours of its busy, self-absorbed qualities as we start this cycle. Now we have a short-term channel that's coming in on May 6th at 11:26 a.m., going until the 12th at 9:54 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, that's coming in May 6th at 5:26 p.m., going until the 13th at 3:54 a.m. After Mars moves out of gate 51, it's going to move into gate 42, the trait of increase, growth, and completion in the sacral center. It will be connecting with its electromagnetic gate 53, the trait of beginnings in the root center, that's being activated by Jupiter. Together, they create the abstract experiential channel of maturation, a design of balance development. At a more macro level, the sacral is the energy to work, and whatever it's connected to is what it wants you to work on. So there's going to be this energy this brings to work on dealing with pressure and stress. More specifically, this channel is experiential, and it's all about going through cycles of beginnings, middles, and ends towards gaining wisdom and growth. So we don't have to start from scratch each time. Now, this is a format channel, which means it brings a cyclical nature to every other trait. It could bring the opportunity to start something new, take a next step, or bring something to completion. Part of this is also allowing time for reflection after an experience comes to completion. Sometimes we just jump too quickly from one thing to another. We don't get the wisdom and lessons, and then we end up having to repeat to see if we can learn that lesson. Again, we get stuck in the cycles there. Of course, if you're not following your strategy and authority, you could also end up doing any of these things, starting something, taking the next step, or bringing something to completion at the wrong time. And with Jupiter expanding the pressure to start something new and Mars' tendency to be hasty in moving through the process, there's a stronger possibility of that playing out. We have another short-term channel. This one's coming in May 7th at 11:08 p.m., going until the 12th at 3:22 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, it's coming in May 8th at 5:08 a.m., going until the 12th at 9:22 p.m. Here we have Saturn in gate 21, the trait of the hunter, the huntress, the gate of control in the ego center, that heart center, that motor that generates willpower. It's connecting with gate 45, the trait of the gatherer in the throat center that's being activated by Venus. Together, they create the channel that's called the money line, a design of a materialist. This is the tribal leadership channel where energy is exchanged for matter, for resources, and back again. It is the only place where things are brought into the material within the whole body graph. So that gate 45 that's in the throat center, the gate of the gatherer, it's actually in this second quarter that we've just started when you look at the mandala, because it is part of bringing things into form. Now, gate 45 is the voice of the king, the queen, the tribal leader. In today's terminology, we could equate it to the CEO of a business who's outward facing and gathering support for the business, while gate 21 is like the president who's inward facing, ensuring that everything in the business is getting done and people have what they need to accomplish what's required so that the business can achieve its goals and be successful. The tribal traits, again, have that theme of mutual support, having support or not. This is a channel focused on resources, what you can control or not. So you may find the pressure to manage your own resources is strong, especially since we also have the 3740 channel of community present. The voice of gate 45 is I have, or I don't have. I need or I don't need. Ultimately, if it's the true tribal leader, it's we have or we don't have. That royal we that speaks for the tribe. This can be the channel of the haves and the have nots. The frequencies of this channel could support you in putting your resources in order and using your willpower to do that. You may feel pressured to invest in your own education or education of any that you support, which can in turn allow the whole family, community, tribe per se to rise up together. It can bring out being very generous with the resources that you do have. This can be a very philanthropic frequency. It can also bring out the polarity of possessiveness and hoarding resources. When you have this channel in your own design, and it's one that I have in my chart, it tends to be best to work for yourself, or at a minimum be autonomous in your work. You just can't have someone looking over your shoulder and micromanaging you. It is important though to learn to delegate, or you may burn yourself out. If you don't have this in your own design, one caution here is that because this is both the CEO and president types, it could have you take a more do it yourself attitude. That's part of what it brings as well. And you might leave a job or go out on your own when it's not actually correct for you or the right timing. On the other hand, if you've been working towards starting your own business or bringing in or managing your resources in a different way, this could be very supportive. Again, all comes back to strategy and authority. Be careful about buying things that you can't afford out of the ego pressure to gain resources rather than what you really need. There could be a tendency with this also to be over controlling, especially if you don't usually have gate 21 in your own design. Window shopping might be a better way to use this energy if you don't actually have the currency to exchange for the material goods. All right, we've got two other channels being created by the transit of the moon. They're just little tasters because the moon only activates a gate or a trait for about 10 or 11 hours, give or take. The first is coming in on May 5th at 9:34 a.m., going until 8:57 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, that's coming in May 5th at 3:34 p.m., going until the 6th at 2:57 a.m. We have the moon moving into gate 10, the trait of behavior of the self and self-love or not in the G center, connecting with Uranus position gate 20, the trait of contemplation, and the now in the throat center. Together, they create the channel of awakening, a design of commitment to higher principles. This is another individual channel, so it brings those themes of mutation, knowing, and here it's about self empowerment. This channel is about expressing self love and acceptance of yourself, or the polarity of self hate and non acceptance of yourself in the now. This is the identity of the G center connected to the throat. So, with this channel, if you're criticized, it could feel like who you are is being criticized. So, there can be a real sensitivity to criticism when speaking your truth from yourself. There can also be pressure to want to be recognized, which can bring attention seeking behavior. However, this channel operates best when you're invited to speak and, of course, following your strategy and authority. Mystically, this is the channel of awakening that awakens us to our self reflected consciousness in the now as a unique being. Our second channel, Moon Transit Channel, is coming in on May 7th at 6:59 a.m., going until 6:14 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, that's coming in May 7th at 12:59 p.m., going until May 8th at 12:14 a.m. We have the moon moving into gate 61, the trait of mystery in the head center, connecting with its electromagnetic gate 24, the trait of rationalizing in the Ajna center. That one's being activated by Mercury. Together, they create the channel of awareness, a design of a thinker. This is part of the mental individual circuitry where a pulse of knowing may drop in, and then the mind's going to go over and over and over it to determine if it's really something new. Remember, the objective of the individual circuitry is mutation. It needs to be something new. And then to rationalize it. so that it can eventually be explained to others. It brings a pressure to know the mysteries of life and potentially delve into more esoteric information. It can bring out philosophical discussions, and you may hear something really intriguing while this is present. However, you also have to let go of any craving of needing to know and accept that the pulse may or may not come through. This brings us to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes of the moon. They're with us for longer periods of time, years in some cases. So your not self mind could start to think they're part of you, even when it's something that you don't have in your own design. And then when that transit moves on, that can be rather confusing to the not self mind. We have Saturn changing gates and Jupiter changing lines this cycle. But let's start with our nodes in the transit field as they bring that homogenized perspective and direction that we'll see in the world. They set the context. So we've already talked about it generally. This is the 3740 channel of community, a design of a part seeking a whole. They're sitting in line one now, the line of investigation and introspection that carries the theme always of security and insecurity. So that's going to be a bigger theme, along with what we always have at the tribal circuitry, that mutual support. For gate 37, line one's called the mother father. It has a developmental theme, so it's something that we learn over time that says a position of inherent respect that ensures a focus for the development of guidelines. So we don't just get born being respected. It's something that you develop over time. In its exaltation, it says harmony is the key to the successful maintenance of relationships. It's only through harmony that the beauty and the values of the family can endure. Friendship that is rooted in sensitivity and ensures harmony, no polarity. No planet in detriment. So remember that this trade and channel is ultimately about resources, whether children, material goods, spiritual resources, and so on. In being sensitive to the resources needed, friendship brings the means for access to those resources and to harmony. For gate 40, line one's called recuperation. Its exaltation says the ability to relax and enjoy the fruits of one's labor. The ego strength to enjoy being alone. In the detriment, it says the moon cannot stand still. The ego uncomfortable with being alone too long. So the exaltation and detriment really represent that fundamental push-pull for this ego trait of needing its rest on one hand. Willpower is not infinite, but also needing to be needed to deliver its willpower. 840 always needs to be appreciated for what it provides. In the detriment, they'll be moving from relationship to relationship or from being part of one group to another as a way to get its rest. Together, the 37 and 47 in line one set the foundation for the nature of community through balanced work and rest, delivering and organizing resources and friendship that brings appreciation for those resources, and maintaining harmony. It brings a context where you may have the possibility of setting a more secure foundation for yourself and any tribe, per se, any community or group that you're a part of. In the collective, it's going to bring a strong pressure for creating greater security at the community and at national levels. Moving on to the outer planets now. Jupiter sitting in gate 53, the trait of beginnings and development in the root center with its pressure to start a new experience. It starts the cycle in line 5 called assertion. We do not have the exaltation present for this line in the world right now because it's activated by Neptune and there's no one alive carrying gate 53 in line 5 right now to keep it in the field. And it'll be a while before we see that again. So we go right to the detriment, which says an over-assertiveness that rather than applied to maintaining support in the face of opposition and isolation, may actually strengthen the opposing forces by its attitude, where the energy for beginnings attracts the very forces that can abort them. This is where starting something is going to meet with opposing forces. You say, I'm going this way, or I'm going to do it this way, or I'm starting this, or we need to develop this, and someone else stands up and says, no, that's not the way, it's this way. We need to develop that. So it creates this struggle. The exaltation of balanced development isn't there. We have unbalanced development, where we're meeting the polarities that can slow development down and create this polarization. On May 6th at 11:14 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, Jupiter's going to move into line 6 called phasing. Its exaltation says the energy to attract support for beginnings based on the success of the past. The detriment says a tendency in this position to hide success in the perverse fear that the success will either create excessive demands or supporters of the original process will end their support upon completion. The pressure to hide beginnings in fear of losing past support. This ability to use past lessons and wisdom to gain support to start something new can bring out the expansive quality of Jupiter. But we can also see this hiding of beginnings out of the fear, and that could be expanded as well. Saturn starts the cycle in gate 17, the logical trait of opinions in the Ajna center in line 6, called the Bodhisattva. It has a developmental theme that says perfected following, one with, and the same as perfected leading. This is a trait that can see the bigger patterns and interdependencies within it and support organizing people and things within that and possibly share this when invited. And when you could see that it will be acted upon. However, there can also be a discontinuation of being open to patterns if you think you've found a pattern that explains everything. Now, this is only going to be here for about 12 hours. And then at 11 o'clock p.m. Mountain Daylight Time on the 3rd, Saturn's going to change gates and move into gate 21, that tribal trait of the hunter, huntress, and control in the ego heart center. We saw that is going to be creating one of our short-term channels. The keynote for the gate says the justified and necessary use of power in overcoming deliberate and persistent interference. So this is a trait that's focused on resources and ensuring that everyone has what they need for the tribe to be successful. This includes both material and spiritual resources. It's going to be in line 1 called warning. This has a developmental theme that says the use of force as a last result. In the exaltation, it says the fierceness to be respected without recourse to action, the willpower and ego to ensure respect. In the detriment, it says an inherent peacefulness that all too often turns a necessary warning into a plea, a lack of willpower that is forced to ask for respect. Now, because it has a developmental theme that tells us that not everyone will have learned this, and some are going to resort to force first without a warning. This is actually disempowering then, as it's not likely to garner respect and instead is going to bring out resistance and opposition. And when we pair that with what we saw in gate 53, not going to be a good combination because it's also enhancing resistance and opposition. Saturn's a more serious energy and could enhance that frequency that commands respect and brings the discipline to provide the warning. Saturn could also bring significant consequences and constraints when there's a loss of control and a deepening of disrespect. Uranus is in gate 20, the trait of the now and contemplation in the throat center. This is the voice of I am now. It's sitting in line 1 called superficiality. This has a developmental theme that says a reliance on shallowness. Now, it could seem off-putting that this line is called superficiality, but that's just how it expresses itself. It's a first line, it's introspective, it's part of integration, the backbone of survival. There's an awareness this line brings of what's going on around you in the world, but what actually gets expressed is very superficial. So you could hear yourself expressing superficial things and others as well, talking about surface stuff like the weather. But if you're put in a life and death situation with this trait, you are very clear on what's going on around you in the now. Neptune sitting in gate 25, the individual trait of the spirit of the self, of innocence and universal love. It's sitting in line 6 called ignorance. The sixth line in an individual trait can see the full individual circuitry and is not going to do anything unless it knows there's a real good chance for it to be mutative. Now, although gate 25 is rooted in motiveless action, at the sixth line level where it sees everything, well, if there's no mutation, who cares if it's motiveless? This is a trait where action is to be accepted without motive. It has a developmental theme, something you learn over time that says false innocence betrayed by actions. So we know, right? We can look out at the world and see when this line's present, yeah, that's false innocence. I can see by their actions that they have a motive. It's not motiveless. The exaltation says the least mild of a negative position where inappropriate action is censured. The loss of innocence through inappropriate action. This is what we learn as a child, right? You can take innocent action and still get into trouble. So if you've got this trait, this line in your design, yeah, you end up being very careful about what action you take to the point that you may not engage in any action at all. In the detriment, the polarity, it is constant, inappropriate, and destabilizing actions whose very counterproductiveness strips away the facade of innocence. Constant, inappropriate action in times of challenges that can break the spirit. In both cases, there's kind of a leading to withdrawal, which isn't a bad place. It can be quite healthy for a sixth line. It helps to bring you back into yourself and reconnect with that innocence. And while you can look out at others and see whether they have a motive or whether it's out of innocence, not so good at seeing that in oneself. And the veiling aspect of Neptune is going to make that even more difficult. Pluto's in gate 41, the collective abstract trait of contraction and decrease in the root center. This is the fuel and pressure to start something new. And at this stage, it's about fantasizing about all the experiences you'd like to have. Now, it's in line 4 called correction. It has a developmental theme that says successful adaptation to limitation. The limitation here is that it's just a fuel here. However, there's something innate in a line 4 that knows in order to fulfill the feeling that it wants, it needs to get its energy up to the 30, up to its electromagnetic, the trait of recognition of feelings and yearning. In the exaltation, this is the energy that can really support the adaptation and resilience that's needed to eventually get the experience. In the detriment, there's the expenditure of energy on maintaining relationships rather than on correction. The collective nature of this trait really plays out here. But as soon as you invite someone else into the experience, you're not going to go through it in the same way that you would have if you were doing it on your own. And sometimes that can result in some frustration in the end. Now, Pluto's going to go into retrograde on May 6th, which is going to extend its stay in this line 4. Okay, looking overall now, this is a strongly individual cycle with the Sun, Earth, Uranus, Neptune, and Mercury in individual traits. Mars as well in the first half of the cycle is also activating that gate 51. We have no logic activations other than a couple of short periods through moon transits. So yeah, looking ahead and planning, it's not going to be a big pressure from this particular cycle. Our context remains tribal with the nodes creating the channel of community. And this will be our last cycle, as I mentioned, with it present through the full cycle. We're going to see a change in the next cycle. In the definitions, the channels that this cycle creates, we have a real shift in emphasis between the first and second halves of the cycle. So in the first half, we have the energy to move out of the tribal way and into oneself, following your unique direction, staying present to what is, while ensuring that no one is persistently or deliberately interfering with you. So I'm looking at that 37 up to the 40, moving over. Most of that energy actually goes to the 51-25 channel of initiation. There's a natural flow there. In the not self world with this, we're likely to see increased competitiveness between communities and nations with an impatience that could lead to trying to force control over others rather than establishing control through respect. So that's something we may see play out. We may see a real battle of egos here. In the second half of the cycle, we have strong tribal definition, bringing an emphasis on gathering and managing your resources and ensuring that they're distributed fairly while being aware of any threats to survival present in the now. And all of this happening in cycles that also brings the pressure to start a new feeling experience. Watch that one's fantasies don't result of jumping out or into something that's not actually correct. We may really see more clearly which leadership is really working to enhance resources for all the people and which is possessive and aim more at self-aggrandizement. Which tribal, community, national leaders are trying to lift up their people so that they can all rise together, and which are oppressive and repressive in the name of maintaining control. The split in the definition in the second half of this cycle points to slowing things down. Right? We've got the channel of maturation from the root up to the sacral center, and then we've got our emotional up to the ego center, and then up to the throat with the tribal activations there. But with all four motors activated, there's going to be a tendency to try to force things to move along. So I expect we'll see a lot of frustration out of that. We'll have many people that will have the G center defined either in their own charts or through the electromagnetic connections available with gates 1, 2, or 25 in the transit field, or if someone has gate 10 connecting with the 20 that's in the transit field. So there's going to be that strong pressure to follow your unique direction within the context of the tribe. While that channel of maturation is activated from May 6th to 12th, along with the channel of community, it means that everyone in that period of time has all four motors activated. So if you do not have many motors in your own definition, and especially for those of you who do not have the sacral center defined, beware of overdoing it in this period. Remember that for any of these traits, if you don't have them in your own design, it's just the homogenizing pressure of the transit field. You can observe it play out around you, you can learn from it, but whether there's any action for you to take out of it is according to your own strategy and authority. So don't let the transit field run you. That brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. If you're new to human design and you want to understand the basics of the body graph at a high level, what's the black and the red about, the different geometric shapes, I put a little bit in there on the background of the system, feel free to grab my free Human Design Basics mini course. It's at margogfraser.com/human-design. If you enjoyed the podcast, I'm always very grateful if you can give the episode a like and consider subscribing if it's correct for you. All right. Well, this could be a really great cycle for creative endeavors. Be open to any pulse that comes through with a knowing of your direction and potentially creative inspiration. Remember, though, to put it through your own strategy and authority. With this individual sun, earth, and the do-it-yourself pressure of the money line, watch that you're not leaving something to strike out on your own under this pressure rather than through your own strategy and authority. You may feel the pressure of that channel of community to be more introspective while it's in line 1, and any insecurities you have around having adequate resources could get amplified in this pressure. Bring awareness that it's in the transit field and be open to new ways that could come in for gaining and managing your resources. Finally, keep in mind that with those four motors present from the 6th to the 12th, you may feel the pressure to speed up and notice that around you as well. So again, just keep attuning to your own strategy and authority so that you're not getting swept up in all of that. All right, well, have a great cycle. Be kind to one another, and may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.